Find a place in John chapter 4. This was a routine errand. The disciples had been sent on this errand in the past. Jesus and the 12 had gone into a different direction, to a different route, but they had been sent on a very special errand. Nobody from Jerusalem took this route that Jesus took. He took a different route. They tried to avoid this route at all costs, especially those who took their religion seriously. They definitely didn't go this way. There was a history of hostility between this group of people and those who were from Jerusalem. And when I mean hostile, I mean really, really, really hostile. They could not stand each other. They wouldn't even talk to each other. They hated one another. Real hostile. But rather than take a familiar road that would have led them around this area known as Samaria, Jesus took a road that led them through Samaria. Today, this area is known as the West Bank and is under control of the Palestinian Authority. There's still hostility there even now. The two groups don't get together. These Samaritans, these folks are in the way. They're unwanted. They're unclean. The Jews do not like them. They're imports brought to this area from by the king of Assyria some 600 years previous to this event. When the exile took place of the northern tribe, the king of Assyria replaced those people that he took away with Gentiles and forced intermarriage. And from that day on, those from Jerusalem hated those who were in Samaria. And that hostility was violent. Jesus took his people, his disciples, right through this area. I can only imagine the conversation as Jesus veered off the beaten path to head through Samaria. I can imagine the disciples saying, "Hey, whoa, Jesus, we're going to Samaria." I doubt anybody wanted to say anything. It doesn't say that anybody did. I bet you even Peter was afraid to speak up and say, "Jesus, your GPS is off. You go a different direction. You're taking us through a group of people that we don't even want to talk to." Eventually, they arrived at a very familiar place, and this place was called Jacob's Well. It was a familiar resting place, and this is where Jesus chose to pause for just a little while and wait. This place, this well, had the best water. It was deep. It was fresh. It was cool water. The village of Sychar is just up the road just a little bit, and they're not really exactly sure where this village is. This is a hilly area of the Promised Land, and so it's up there somewhere in one of those hills. And so what would normally happen, the ladies would come and get water in the morning when it was comfortable. And they would come with groups of people. Groups of ladies would come because it was safe. And so Jesus stops there in the middle of the afternoon, and there he waits. He takes a rest, which is a testament to not only his humanity, but also his deity. He stops and he waits. He sends the disciples on this familiar errand to go get some food in the hated village of Sychar in the land of Samaria. And I can just imagine the discussion they must have had as they wandered up that hillside to Sychar. Okay, fellas, look, we have to go to Sychar. We hate Sychar. We hate Samaria. And so here's the plan. We're going to get in, we're going to get our Lunchables and our Capri Suns, and we're going to come out. We're not going to talk to anybody. We're not going to say hello to anybody. We're just going to walk straight ahead, eyes on the road, get what we need, and get back home. Deal? Deal. They all put their hands in there and did the 12 disciple huddle. Woo! They had a cheer that I don't know of, and they went running up the hill, and that's where they went. And they left Jesus sitting there, waiting. The plan was very simple. Get in, get out, don't talk. And as they started to go up that hill, my imagination tells me that they were going up this hill, and sure enough, as they started climbing this little hill, there was another person coming down, a woman from Sychar. You know what's worse than a woman from Sychar? A bunch of women from Sychar. They don't like Samaritans. They don't like to be anywhere near there, let alone women from Samaria. And so they see this woman coming down. I can imagine they all said, okay, let's just move over. No one say anything. No one say hello. This is hard for us to do. I go to California, and I'm used to saying, howdy, to people in the airport. You know when you get into LAX and you say howdy, you know what you get back? Nothing. If you're lucky, nothing. Then nothing back. And so they're walking through. They don't even say howdy. They don't even do the what's up. They don't even do the head nod. They just walk. And I can imagine they get on the other side of the road and they let that woman come down the other side, and I'm pretty sure she was happy with that. From what we know, the rest of the story is she didn't get along well with men at all. And so her seeing 12 guys walk up the road, I'm sure that wasn't like, woohoo, 12 guys are walking up the road. I wonder what their names are. I'm sure she was like, great. How do I not deal with these guys? I don't want to deal with them, and they didn't want to deal with her. However, her agenda was a little interrupted. You might know the rest of the story. She comes down to the well. She sees a dude sitting there at the well. To her, it's just another guy. She has no idea who she's fixing to talk to. And I'm sure she thought the word fixin', okay? She had no idea who's there. She sits down. She starts pulling up the water or starts talking to Jesus. And her life is forever changed. She's coming down with an empty water bottle. I think it's awfully symbolic of her empty soul. And she sits down there and Jesus talks to her about everything from politics to religion to her personal life. We all learn in kindergarten that you don't talk about politics, religion, and your personal life, okay? Jesus hits all three. And whoever knows how long they talked. She leaves him ecstatic and she runs up the hill and she goes back to Sychar and she tells them, there's a man down there at the well and he told me everything I've ever done. Think about that for just a minute. He told me everything I've ever done. Everything. Everything. How would you walk away from a conversation where the guy told you everything you had ever done? Yes, even that. I don't know if I would use that as my opening line to invite my friends to come down and see this guy. Would you? I think I might keep that a little on the down low. And so she goes back up there, but think about that for just a minute. We all have those things inside of our hearts that maybe we don't want anybody to know because we think if they know, they'll run off. Jesus doesn't run off. You might be visiting church today. You might be coming back into church thinking, what is church like? What is these people like? I want you to know that with Jesus, he knows everything about you and he doesn't run off. He stays right there, and he even knows about that, and he stays. We want to be a church that does the same thing, that embraces people with a past, that says, come and meet the Jesus that we know and love that doesn't run off. In this woman's story, every man that she's ever been around has run off, has thrown her out. Jesus didn't. He's unique. He's a God of love, God of grace, a God of passion. Jesus doesn't run off. But I can imagine as she's down there with Jesus talking for however long she's talking with him, the disciples are up in Sychar buying the Lunchables and the Capri Suns. And he's getting all the things together, and he's got all the little bags, and there's 12 of them, so there's got to be at least 12 bags. And so they're all coming down the hill, and here comes this lady. Again, the awkward moment there of no howdy, no heads up, no hey, whoa, anything. They get on the other side, and she bolts right by him. Wonder if they even noticed her. I don't know exactly. Maybe they didn't notice that she wasn't carrying a water bottle. What did they notice about this lady? She bolts the other way. They can see her coming. I imagine them thinking, oh no, we're almost through this. Don't say hello. Don't say anything. Get in, get out, get lunch. Don't say a word to anybody. She runs by. Whew. She didn't touch anybody, did she? Okay, good. We're still clean. They turn the corner and they see Jesus sitting there. And there's Jesus. And he's got this weird look on his face. Like he knows something. Like he knows what's about to happen. Disciples come in. Of course, they're men. All they're thinking about is lunch. And they say, Jesus, we brought you lunch. And he says, I have food that you do not know of. From who? Who brought you lunch? Who brought you the food that what are these supposed to be for? We are the ones who're supposed to bring you lunch. Where did you get food? Did that woman bring you something to eat? I knew she was bad. That woman didn't do anything. I have food that you do not know about in verse 32. So the disciples were saying to one another, no one brought him anything to eat, did he? Jesus says in 34, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. Do you not say, there are 4 months and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say to you, before you read that next line, everything revolved around agrarian culture, okay? It's all about the harvest. Even fishermen would know about the harvest. Jesus says, I'm doing things, and there are things that have such an importance that food doesn't even matter. Whoa, food doesn't even matter. Jesus says, I am so fixated on accomplishing the will of God that food takes second place. You see, I think in the mind of Christ, there was a clock that was always ticking, and it was ticking closer and closer to a cross. He didn't have time to waste on temporal things. He had men to equip. He had a mission to reach others, and he had a woman to meet. And in just a minute, you'll see what else he had. Jesus had this clock in his mind that saw the spiritual, the eternal, over the temporal. He saw what God had, not what was just happening with food, crackers, fish, and money. That wasn't on his radar. Jesus says, I've got food that you do not know about. There are 4 months and a harvest. There are things that are coming before I say to you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields. They are white for harvest. And now remember the geography here. Sychar's up on a hill. The well is down the valley. And so the disciples are here looking at Jesus with Sychar behind him. And Jesus says, look up to the hills. The fields are white in the harvest. And they would have turned to look. And you look on the hill. There's this flood of people coming down. A flood of them coming down. Think about it. This woman goes back into the city. And I can just imagine she gets in the scene. Hey, there's a guy down there at the well. He told me everything I'd ever heard. And some reporter from the Sychar Times is going, everything that you've ever done? Wow, we're going to find some interesting things out. We're heading down there. Those people who were gossip rubberneckers, who just like to hear every bit of news. He told you everything. I wonder what else he's going to say down there. And then there are those who had kept everything on the down low and thought, wait a minute, if he told everything about her, what does he know about me? And if all of these people are going to go down there, I better go down there. And then there are some who are from Sychar. It's a small little town. What else do they got to do? Okay? I mean, let's go. Well, why not? What else are we going to do? And so you get down that hill, and there Jesus looks up, the disciples turn and look, and here's this flood of people. And I can just imagine what the disciples are feeling. They're holding their little sacks from H-E-B, which, funny, H-E-B is our only Hebrew store in the city. You know that, right? H-E-B. And who told me that was the funniest thing. There was a man who came to our church from Jews for Jesus, and he's a wonderful man. He says, you need to go, Bob, and he gave me a list of things to get, and he said, you need to go to your Hebrew grocery. And I went, yeah, I don't think we have one of those. And he said, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't think I do. And he said, H-E-B. I went, it's the funniest thing. Anyway, so they came down, they got their bags from H-E-B, and they're down there, and they're looking at Jesus, and they look back, and they realize all these people that they just tried to avoid. They didn't want to see. They didn't want to talk to. They were in the way. They're unclean. They're a bother. They're a nuisance. They're just too many of them. And here they all come running down the hill. And I can just imagine the disciples sitting there going, we brought back a lunch, and that one woman has brought back a village. Who do you think Jesus was more interested in reaching? Lunch or a village? One woman went back and brought back a village. 12 guys went into the same village and brought back nothing. They missed it. And I can imagine the awkward feeling it must have been as this whole village came through down to see Jesus. And the disciples are going, hey, yeah, we knew about Jesus too. Didn't want you to, though. Oh, yeah, come on in. Why don't you hear about Jesus? Yeah, we're glad you're here. Not really. Not a whole lot. That awkward feeling. And maybe one of them might have said, you know, fellas, I think we missed it. I don't think it was just lunch that Jesus was interested in. Jesus wanted us to bring back a village. Can you imagine if they went to that village and said, hey, yeah, we're here to buy Lunchables and Capri Suns, and there's a guy down there at the well, you ought to come here to talk. We've seen him heal people. We've seen him raise people. We've seen him feed people. We've seen him do all kinds of things. You ought to come and hear him. They didn't say a word. They missed it. Completely missed it. I tell you that story, it's probably familiar to some of you, but I tell you that story because I want to read you something that was in the newspaper a couple weeks ago. Thank you. This ran in the newspaper this is November 20th. Y'all read this. It says, the boom is still on. The boom. Now, I know some of you have been through busts, and so when you see the word boom, you look for the word bust to come right after. And I've asked a lot of people about, when's the bust going to come? And one guy told me, he says, if I knew that, I would be very, very wealthy. Nobody really knows. But this boom, it says here, reports from Ray Perryman, and it talks about the population of our city within the next 5 years. Did anybody read this? Do you know what the population of our city is going to be in the next 5 years according to this economic study? Okay, don't be mad, but it's 211,000 by 2018. Okay, you thought the line at H-E-B was long now. You thought Grandview was rough now. That's 25,000 more people per year for the next 4 years. Y'all look sad. Look terrified by that. You want to know something else? I got this in the paper. This was, I think, yesterday, December 4th. It was last Wednesday. It was talking about hotels. And the fact that hotels, they're starting to put in all these new hotels, but they're worried because people aren't living in the hotels anymore. In fact, occupancy has gone down just a little while. You want to know why? They bought houses. They don't need to stay at the hotel anymore. They're staying next door to you. They're staying. They're not just coming, but they're going to stay. And I want to tell you something. The village is coming down. And one of the things that we have as an elder board have been talking about for a couple years, discussing very seriously for the last several months, and praying deeply about for the last couple weeks and months, is how are we going to get ready for that? Because we don't want to miss it. The mission field is coming here. 111,000 more of them. It's coming here. They're coming here. So every time you drive by and see plates from Pennsylvania, the mission field just moved here. You see plates from New York, see plates from South Dakota, see plates from Mississippi, see plates coming from New Mexico, from all the California ones. Keep going. I'm from California, but all these plates are coming here. You know what that is? That's the mission field, and you know what you ought to do? Get used to it, because it's coming here. It's coming here. And so what we've been thinking about as an elder board is, how are we not going to miss this? What are we going to do to reach people? They're coming without any knowledge of Christ. They're coming with the knowledge of Christ, needing a church home. They're coming with children. They're coming as senior adults. They're coming. They're moving here. What are we going to do to get ready for that? Because the last thing I want to be is the guy at the well holding bags of temporal things going, shucks, we missed it. Now what are we going to do? And I can look at the city planners and all of that and go, someone needs to be repaving this road. Someone needs to be building our infrastructure. What are we going to do with power and water and all of those things? And that's nothing that I can control. But what we can control is, how are we as a church going to get ready for that? Because they're coming. 111,000 of them, they're coming. What are we going to do? Now, some of you are thinking, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a big old fence. I'm moving out to the country. I'm going to get away from all of these people. And there's definitely a part of our population, our community that's like that. But not this one. Not our church. Because I keep asking, all right, well, here they come. Our elder board keeps asking, what are we going to do to get ready for that? What are we going to do? How are we going to minister to that group of people? Because they need Jesus just as much as everybody else. So I want to tell you about something that we've planned. And tell you about something that we are looking forward to and want you to be involved in this. It's going to be a little radical, okay? And if you haven't learned anything about us yet, is that we like to do things that are just a little bit different, okay? Just a little different because we think different works, because people are all different. Praise the Lord, you don't want to be like me. And so we want, how do we do this in such a way to where we can reach people? Now, typically what happens in a church of our size is you get a room that's probably, right now, we're probably about 80% full. Do you know that prior to the Ice Bowl a couple weeks ago, we were averaging 165 on campus and 155 in this room? That makes this room at 80% full. And anytime a room is at 80% full, it's full. Nobody comes, because it's full. There's not enough room to sit. And right now, we're about 80% full. And so if you think that our city's going to grow in the next 5 years, 4 years, to be 100 or 211,000, our church has got to make room. So how are we going to do this? Well, the obvious answer for that is to have a second service. And so we've thought about a second service. What can we do with the second service? And we would like to do this. It's going to be a little bit different for us. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, because it'll change our church a little bit. It will. But you know what? When it was just me and Melanie, no children, it was great. And then we had children, and it's great. But you know what it is? It's different. It's different. Parents, it's a lot different. And then you have 2 children, and guess what? It's a lot more different. But is it bad? No, it's good. You just have to make more room, which means you have to throw away stuff that doesn't matter as much. You have to really kind of sort your priorities and figure out what's really important. And so when a church is growing, it's kind of like having babies. All of a sudden, more people are coming. So they're people, they're important, they're God's people. And so we got to make room. And so this is the best way to make room. And what it does is it offers up a lot of opportunities. Go ahead and click on the next slide for service. And this is kind of what we've been thinking. In order to do this, we need to have some home group leaders. We need to have some, because Lifeline groups, we don't have enough room for that here on campus either. And so an opportunity for service presents to everybody. We need some families who are going to say, we're going to do a home group because we can't necessarily do the Sunday school in the same way. And so the next group is, we're going to need some leaders for children's church. We're going to need this next one. We're going to need children's church leaders. We're going to need more nursery workers. We're going to need more ushers, and we're going to need some hospitality folks, and we're going to need a refreshing group, because you know what happens after y'all leave today? They're coffee cups, which is great, I don't mind. But someone's going to have to pick those up, and bulletins are going to have to be picked up and moved around. And we're going to need someone to help to refreshen the group, and we're going to need inviters. We're going to need people to help invite other people to come. But this is the idea here. Go ahead and click the launch date for this. It's not next Sunday, okay? We may be radical, but we're not stupid. It's February 9th, okay? That's, I think, 10 weeks away. 10 weeks away, February 9th. It's after the Super Bowl. So if that's a big day on your calendar, we're really not idiots, okay? It'd be after the Super Bowl. But here's the thing that's different. Go ahead and click the next one. Oh, I don't have it up there. Here's the thing that makes it a little bit radical. We would like to do it at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Typically what happens is you do a morning service, you move everything early. You do an 8:30 service, and then you do a 10:30 worship service, or some effect. You try to get all in before noon. And here's my problem with that. And this is the elder board's wrestling match, and our problem with that is if you do it at 8:30 in the morning, who's going to come to that? You know what you're going to run into? It's called the pillow barrier. You're going to run right into the pillow barrier. And that pillow barrier is a real thing, isn't it? It's a real thing, because what happens to a lot of families on Saturday afternoon is they're on a soccer field all day Saturday. They're on a basketball court. They're in San Angelo. They just got back from Dallas. They're traveling. They're busy. They are working all day Saturday. And so if we offered a morning service like at 9 o'clock in the morning, are unchurched, lost people going to be predisposed to get up that early, especially if they have little babies? Go ahead and shake your head no. Okay. Do you know why we do church at 9:30 on Sunday morning? We do it on Sunday because that's the day of the Lord's resurrection. We do it at 9:30 because that worked out really well for farmers, because they would go out and do their chores early, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they would come in and take a break at 9:30, and then they would go back out after. How many of you drove a tractor this morning to farm your fields? Okay, and so if we did it really early, there's nothing sacred about 9:30 on Sunday morning. Besides, that's just what we've always done, 9:30, 10:45. There's nothing sacred about that. And so, if there's nothing sacred, there's nothing biblical that would violate the 9:30 worship hour or the 10:45, because that's what Jesus did, because he didn't. What if we did it at 1 o'clock? And if we did it at 1 o'clock, that means those who are exhausted sleep in. Thank you, yes. People are going, we're not supposed to sleep in on Sunday. We'll go to hell. We're not allowed to do that. Because like last Sunday when we didn't come to church and I stayed home, I'm sitting there going, the Baptist guilt was starting to kick in on me. I'm thinking, I need to go to church and do something up there at that church house on Sunday morning. I grew up in a Baptist environment, okay? And so I'm thinking, well, if we did it at 1 o'clock, there are some who work all day Saturday, and the only time to sleep a little bit is on Sunday. So what if we just got rid of that barrier and said, sleep, and then come at 1 o'clock? Sleep in a little bit. Enjoy coffee. Be with your family. And then come in at 1 o'clock. And enjoy a 1 o'clock worship service. Nobody in the Permian Basin is doing a 1 o'clock. You think, wow, you're cutting edge. Well, guess what? Nobody in the Permian Basin is selling a car that looks like an elephant either. It might be because nobody wants a car that looks like an elephant. And it might be because nobody will come to a 1 o'clock. I don't know. But as we sit and think through, how can we do this so we don't miss the blessing that God is bringing us? What if we offered it at 1 o'clock and invited people to come to 1? Check out what you could do. You've been working on somebody to come to church. You don't know about their spiritual life, or you know that they have one and they need to be in church, but that, boy, you keep inviting them to come at 10:45, and they keep going, oh, it's so early. I can't get the kids up. Hey, I'll meet you at lunch at 11:30 at Jason's Deli. and then we'll go to church right after. Wouldn't that be cool? Or you might be thinking, I didn't really get to go to church this morning because I taught, or I was in the nursery all morning. Okay, well, you can be in the nursery all morning, go to lunch, and then come back to the 1 o'clock. Or you might say, I want to serve at the 1 o'clock, so I'm going to attend the 10:45 and then come to the 1 o'clock and be involved with something all day long. But here's another thing that we think we need to do. There's only an hour and 15 minutes between 11:45. I'm supposed to be done in 3 minutes. There's only time between, there's only an hour and 15 minutes. That's not enough time between 11:45 and 1 o'clock to do all that we need to do. And so we're going to move everybody up 15 minutes. So 9:15 starts Lifeline groups. 9:15. Extra 15 minutes, all right? Worship will start at 10:30. And if I do my responsibilities right, we'll be done at 11:30. That gives us an hour and a half to get ready for 1 o'clock. That also allows everybody to be involved in this. This isn't just going to be an elite group or a special group of people who, oh yeah, those people are doing a 1 o'clock. No, we're all doing a 1 o'clock. Everybody's going to move up 15 minutes, and everybody's going to have an opportunity to serve, and everybody can be involved in this, even if you don't come at 1 o'clock. You might say, I'm going to go to the 10:45, work in the nursery at 9:15. I'm going to take me forever to start saying 10:30, and then I'm going to attend the 1 o'clock just as a cheerleader, just to fill the room, because we're going to need a group of people to move from the regular 10:30 and start attending the 1 o'clock. And make it a viable room. Got to get to critical mass. We'll restructure the room a little bit and kind of use bistro tables and try to mix it up and come up with some ideas in that regard. But we don't want to miss it. Our church is growing. We're to that point right now where this room is full and it's wonderful. But next year, 25,000 people are moving to Odessa. I wonder where they're going to go to church. I hope they go here, don't you? Okay, I'm going to do it again because I got a good response there, but you weren't ready for it. I hope they come here, don't you? Wouldn't that be cool? And we could do a 10:30 and then a 1 o'clock. And we'll do it for, I think, 12 weeks between February 9th and Easter and see how it goes. And if it goes great, we'll tweak it, modify it, see how it goes. And if it goes great, wonderful. If it doesn't, we'll just stop doing it. I'm all for throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And if it doesn't stick, let it fall down. Go do something else and try it. So we'll do it for 12 weeks. But I'm not going to be, and our elder board's not going to be, guys at the well with bags going, oh, we sure did miss that. Bummer. That's not going to be us. That's not our church. We're not going to miss this. The mission field is coming here. Yes, the mission field from Mississippi, from New Mexico, from Arizona, from all over the country. They're coming here. What do they need? They need a loving church family because they probably just left one. They probably left mom and dad. They need support. They need a loving family. And we want to be that place for them to land, okay? And so we're going to meet and talk about this. Is that the right date? December 15th is the right date. That's next Sunday at 5:30 to talk about this. We need about 40 to show up and say, I want to be involved. And the ministry sign-up sheets in a couple weeks, we'll have those opportunities for you to serve. You might serve. I'm going to come to church on Sunday, and then on 1 o'clock, I'm going to work in the nursery. I'm going to go have lunch, and I'm going to come right back. And then maybe right after the service, you'll be on the refreshing team, and right after the service, you'll just pick up chairs, put things straight, move things around, clean it up a little bit, throw it away, and you're done. Little things that you can do to help be a part of this. But it's a little radical. We went looking all over the place for churches who have done this. I found a guy in North Carolina who does a 1 o'clock. It's his 6th service of the weekend. Okay, so he does, it's his 5th. He does 2 on Saturday night, 3 on Sunday morning, 1 at 1 o'clock. And then he does another one Sunday night. So this guy he says, I'm hoarse by it comes Sunday night. And so that's the only place that Zach and I've been able to find someone who does it at 1 o'clock. There might be a reason for that. I don't know. But if I look at that pillow barrier, and it's real, how can we help people come to church? Maybe that's how we can do that. We don't want to be the church that stands there with Lunchables and Capri Suns and says, woohoo, nuts. We missed it. We missed it. We're not going to miss it. We're going to do all that we can do to provide an environment where people can learn more about Christ. Home group leaders, children's church workers, nursery usher, hospitality, fresheners, inviters, you all are inviters. And we can be a part of this together. And I think it could be pretty cool. Do you? Okay. I've talked to some of you about this. And what we don't want to have happen is nobody comes to 10:30 anymore because we all like to sleep in. Which that's a real possibility. Because as an elder, we're thinking, yeah, but what happens if the 10:30 just bottoms out and no one shows up anymore? Well, we'll cross that bridge if we get there. But be praying about this. And then next Sunday, come back at 5:30. We'll move our men's Bible study. We'll move it up an hour. We'll move things around. But maybe, just maybe, God could use this in a unique way to reach people with the gospel. So every time you see that new plate, that new license plate as you're driving, they're coming. Our city is very stressed as far as just getting ready from an infrastructural standpoint. Our churches should be asking this question. We don't want to miss this because they're coming here. We want to be a part of that harvest.